The Chinese Communist Party uses bribery, blackmail, economic threats, and outright subversion to quietly seize control of other nations. While the CCP threatens to invade Taiwan using military force, well, the communist regime is already invading other nations, only it's not being done with troops and bombs. Instead, it's being done with non-military tactics. And South Korea has been an active target of the Chinese Communist Party in this lesser-known form of war. Now, last time we were in Seoul, we exposed how the Chinese Communist Party is using tactics including culture warfare, political warfare, and other things against the country. We exposed how the CCP has ironically shown its hand while trying to force South Korea to cancel an American performing arts company, Shenyun, which is set out to revive the traditional culture of China, a culture which the CCP has notably tried to destroy. And for this special episode, we wanted to give a follow-up on some of the key developments since our investigations a few weeks ago, and also delve deeper into issues at work behind the scenes. This time, we focus specifically on KBS, a media company run by the South Korean government. Under it is KBS Theater, which had received direct financial threats from the Chinese embassy to cancel Shenyun in 2016. And the effect this has had were all government theaters in South Korea at this moment now appear to be bound to this type of pressure from the Chinese Communist Party. Now, since we last exposed this, U.S. lawmakers issued public statements condemning the actions in South Korea.
We should all be working together to oppose the Chinese Communist Party at every single level.
The thing they fear the most is their own people's freedom.
The U.S. State Department publicly condemned this form of economic threat from the CCP.
South Korea is a key U.S. security ally, and the State Department has been very clear in raising concerns over China's human rights practices as well as its economic coercion toward other countries. So the State Department has also in 3 different human rights and religious freedom reports highlighted a particular issue in which the Chinese embassy in South Korea has been using its economic leverage to pressure theaters in South Korea to try to block performances by an American company, Shenyun Performing Arts. So it's an American arts company whose classical Chinese dance shows have been banned in China because they include pieces portraying human rights persecution in China. So my question is, does it remain a concern by the State Department that in such incidents like this, China is using its economic pressure to influence the freedom of expression in an ally country?
Broadly, I would say it, of course, continues to remain of concern. The PRC has a very clear track record of using economic coercion and otherwise in a wide array of countries, not just necessarily the ROK. But this is, of course, something that we're going to continue to address in close partnership with the ROK, with Japan, with other countries in the Indo-Pacific as well.
Now, we were told by a counter-spy whistleblower last time that South Korean police and intelligence services were being restricted from targeting Chinese espionage. It appears that this policy was a remnant from previous administrations, and interestingly, suddenly something may have changed. The head of South Korea's equivalent to the CIA and FBI, it's the NIS, the head suddenly resigned, along with 2 of his deputies. No reason was given, although it may be a reshuffling taking place under President Yoon, who took power last year. And also around the same time, South Korean intelligence services broke a trend of not targeting Chinese espionage. And suddenly, they went after 38 Chinese propaganda networks operating in South Korea. Also, the CEO of KBS was just recently pushed out, and a new CEO, Park Min, was appointed. Now, he apologized that KBS had become politically biased, and he promised to change this.
공영방송으로서 핵심 가치인 공정성을 훼손해 국민의 신뢰를 잃어버린 상황에 깊은 유감을 표하며 국민 여러분께 정중히 사과드립니다.
And we've since discovered some key issues with KBS. threats from China, subversion from North Korea, with ties to unions notably, and also alleged political persecution even within the company. It seems that money from China has been playing a key role not only for South Korean business, but also in government decisions. Sources we spoke with said the problem runs deep. You were the lawyer in the case against KBS representing Shen Yun. One of the things that came out was this letter from the Chinese consulate threatening KBS financially. Is this normal in Korea? Was this uncommon?
션윈과 KBS 사건의 그 배후에는 중국 공산당의 주한 그 보통 대사관 공문을 대사관 명의로 발송하는 것이 통상적인 그 사례인데 3등서 기관이라고 하는 사람이 KBS에 공문을 보냈고 KBS가 개관 계약을 취소한 것은 사실은 중국 공산당이 한국의 그 자국의 대사관을 이용해서 압박을 한 면도 있었습니다만은 KBS 경영진 자체가 그 당시에 이미 중국 공산당에게 조금 뭐라 그럴까 저자세로 임하는 그 당시 정권 분위기가 그랬습니다. 대한민국의 정권 자체가 중국에 그렇게 어떤 뭐 당당하게 권리를 주장하거나 어떤 뭐 할 말을 한다거나 이런 형편이 못 됐고.
Is economic pressure from the Chinese embassy like this? Is that a normal thing here?
그런 케이스는 아주 드문 일입니다. 뭐 나는 오랫동안 KBS에 있었지만 그런 경우를 당해본 적이 내 기억에는 없는 것 같아요. 그때가 지금 생각해보니까 내가 이제 KBS를 떠난 뒤의 일이라서 잘 내용은 모르지만 그때가 이제 한국에 사드를 배치하려는 그런 움직임이 이제 한국과 미국 정부 사이에 얘기가 오가고 있었는데 그때 중국이 굉장히 심하게 반발을 했거든요. 그 시점하고 그 셴낸 시점이 맞물려 있더라고요. 그래서 중국의 압력이 뭐 굉장히 강하게 들어왔겠구나 하는 짐작은 합니다. 중국은 어떤 문제든지 자기들이 원하거나 아니면 곤란하거나 그런 경우에 이런 방식의 압력을 계속 사용을 할 겁니다. 왜냐하면 상품의 수출을 막는다는 게 그것이 뭐 공산품이든 문화상품이든 소비재든 막론하고 상대방 국가의 경제에 타격을 주기 때문에 그것으로 굉장히 효과를 노리면서 이것을 정치적으로 이제 정치적인 자기네 이익으로 바꾸려고 그런 노력을 계속 할 거예요. 그런데 이것은 그 정부의 중국과의 외교적인 관계가 상당히 선행되는 조건이 아닐까 그렇게 생각합니다. 왜냐하면 특히 언론기관인 공영방송인 KBS는 회사의 작은 이익도 중요하지만 국익도 고려해야 되는 그런 입장에 있기 때문에 중국이 계속해서 그런 압력을 가해온다면 결국은 반발을 불러올 수밖에 없을 겁니다.
The influence of China over Korea is very big. It's bigger than what you think. Influence, economic influence, political influence. For a long time, Korea was infiltrated by Chinese influence in many ways. To control Korea easily when, well, it's possible that South Korea could be very pro-Chinese country because some regimes, some governments were extremely pro-China. And our Speaker of the House gave a present to your Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, calligraphy, and it means our loyalty is to China.
Oh, no.
Yeah, he gave it to as a present to Nancy Pelosi, saying, "We like China more than we like you."
And he gave it to Nancy Pelosi.
Nancy Pelosi, but Nancy Pelosi did not know what he meant. Oh, thank you very much. And then I'm sure they realized our loyalty is to China.
Some of the issues of KBS also tie to trends of the last administration under President Moon. That's in the opposite party from the current President Yoon. Congressional testimony in the United States actually previously raised alarms of what was happening in the previous South Korean administration. Moon was accused of taking over KBS and then using it politically. And this politicization was allegedly tied both to the Chinese Communist Party and to North Korea.
Moon has, for instance, tightened control over government broadcasters, most notably the Korean Broadcasting System, or KBS. He's tried to do that to reduce dissenting views that are aired on the programs, and he's also trying to promote North Korea's views. Soon after his election, Moon used his power to pressure members of the board of KBS, whom he did not like. Part of this reign of terror is that North Korean thugs have been allowed free rein in South Korea to terrorize people. In short, opposition in South Korea has, in the words of Lawrence Peck, been persecuted, prosecuted, pressured, censored, and harassed.
We're told some of these problems still exist. A new CEO of KBS was recently appointed, and one of the first statements he made was that he apologized for some of the political bias that had found its way into KBS and suggested that maybe he would change this.
KBS의 상황은 지난 5년 동안 좌파 정권 집권 시기에 좌경화된 세력이 방송을 장악을 했어요. 주로 이제 노조 출신들인데 그래서 상당한 그런 특히 정치적인 이슈에 관해서 편향성을 보였죠. 그 결과는 그 시청자들, 국민들이 외면을 한 겁니다. KBS를. 그것에 대한 이제 반성, 그리고 공영방송이라는 공영방송의 정신, 정치적으로 공정하고 불편부당하게 보도를 해야 되고 프로그램을 제작을 해야 된다는 그런 정신을 회복하겠다는 그런 의지를 보인 것이 아닌가 이렇게 생각합니다.
I was a board member of KBS, the biggest television station in Korea, public station. And they wanted me to get out of the board, the KBS board. If I resign, the new government could change the CEO of the KBS and make their own people as CEO and important positions in KBS. And it was backed by the Democratic Labor Union, we call it, very radical for North Korean labor union. So combination of the political power of the Moon government and the social power of Democratic Labor Union, they united to move me out of KBS. So I protested. I got all kinds of hardships. For the last 6 years, the KBS was not a public broadcasting. It's a factional, very polarized broadcasting, biased and prejudiced, pro-Chinese, pro-Moon government, and anti-opposition party, and they were criticizing people who dissent with the Moon government.
This relates to some of the political battles in South Korea here. The bigger divide between the two main parties is whether the country should more closely align with the United States or whether it should align instead with the Chinese Communist Party and with North Korea. The current President Yoon wants to form an alliance with the United States and with Japan. The former leader Moon was instead pushing the country closer to China and North Korea. And this political divide has rippled through the country, including in the workers' unions. In March, 4 high-level officials in the Korean Confederation of Trade Unions were arrested under charges that they had been working with North Korean spies. Can you explain to me some of the issues you saw with the current leaders, the ones that were just pushed out, the leadership of KBS? Were they really pro-CCP, pro-China?
Of course, pro-North Korea especially, because it's actually run by radical pro-communist labor union, which was infiltrated by North Korea. KBS didn't televise on that incident. Actually, all public televisions in Korea were run by, and still run by, the labor union. We called it Democratic Labor Union, but it's not democratic at all.
Do they still have this control or this influence?
Yes. For example, more than 50% of the KBS people belong to the union. It's more than half. 70 or 80% of NBC belong to the labor union. It's outside labor union, not inside. And EBS, educational station, broadcasting station, is more than 85% of the workers of EBS belong to the labor union.
I could imagine some people in Korea would be like, oh, that's a few leaders of the union. Not everybody believes that. What would you tell them?
That's what they always say, but the decisions were made by leaders of the union.
KBS 방송은 한국의 대표적인 공영방송입니다. 과거에는 그 공영방송으로서의 언론의 기능에 충실했습니다. 정치 중립도 잘 지켰고요. 또 국민의 알 권리를 갖다가 충실히 이행하는 그런 방송이었습니다. 그런데 80년대 중반 이후에 이제 한국에서 그 민주화 운동이 그러니까 군부 독재가 이제 종결되고 민주화 정부로 이제 넘어오는 과정에서 한국에는 그 노동조합이 발생을 했습니다. 그 공식 명칭으로는 민주노총이라고 하는 것인데, 이 노동조합이 사실은 그 민주화 운동에 편성을 해서 북한의 김일성 주체 사상과 연결되는 그런 현상이 발생을 했습니다. 그리고 그 민주노총이 KBS의 노동조합도 같이 흡수를 해서 장악을 해버렸죠. 그러다 보니까 KBS의 구성원 자체가 상당수가 좌경화되기 시작했고, 또 심지어는 그 노동조합이 KBS의 경영에 간섭을 해서 회사 경영진도 이제 함부로 노동조합을 어떻게 좌지우지할 수 없는 그런 상황이 발생되었습니다. 그리고 그 과정에서 지난 정권, 즉 문재인 정권 시절에 민주노총이 정권 탄생에 아주 지대한 역할을 했습니다. 그러니까 정권에서는 민주노총에 대한 보상으로 여러 가지 혜택을 많이 주었죠. 그러다 보니 KBS도 이제 민주노총에 좌지우지돼서 정권이 중국에 대한 굴종외교 저자세로 나가니 민주노총도 KBS 경영진에 중국 공산당의 어떤 그 불리하거나 위해가 되거나 반대가 되는 그런 방송 프로그램이라든가 행동은 일체 하지 말 것을 요구한 걸로 저는 알고 있습니다. 현인 공연의 대관 그 계약 취소도 그러한 원인이 그 뒤에 자리 잡고 있었습니다.
How serious would you say are these issues for KBS?
심각하다고 생각을 해요. 내가 걱정하는 것은 비단 KBS뿐이 아니고 한국 사회 전반적인 그런 경향이 문제가 상당히 심각하다고 생각하는 겁니다.
As of now, Shen Yun is still being blocked from performing in South Korea. It appears the reason behind this is not just about CCP pressure on Shen Yun itself, but instead about CCP pressure and subversion in South Korea as a whole.